6 feet apart with Christi
and Casey.
You have stepped into our bubble. Hey, Casey.
Hey, Christi.
What's going on?
I'm good.
How's it going?
Same
Going,
old. Well,
yeah.
we're vaccinated.
We are, yes.
that's like-
we are absolutely vaccinated.
That's
Both
cool.
of us.
Yeah.
100%.
I know. So that's big, like very big news.
We're like superheroes now.
I know. I feel like people are just like over talking about anything about it.
Correct.
But I'm like, I want to remember way down the line that like being vaccinated, like it feels so good, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's amazing it happened in a year, so.
I mean, I said this is the most I've been excited about a shot that did not have liquor in it, especially being from New Orleans.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've never been this excited about
I did
actually
see
having
some
a shot.
bars were like offering a free
Shots for
shot
shots.
with shots
Yeah.
for shots.
Yeah.
Very
I mean,
New Orleans thing.
Typical New Orleans, yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything you watched the past two or 3 weeks?
Let's see. I am watching, which I feel like I need to start over again because I am watching Behind Her Eyes.
Never heard of it.
Oh my gracious. So I had heard a couple of things on Netflix about this and I decided to get into it. I really do feel as if I need to go back. It feels so layered. So there's this couple that I still don't understand what's going on with them. But then there's another girl who's like his secretary or something who he's having an affair with. I feel like there's a lot of affairs going on in these shows, but yeah, it seems very layered and very complicated, but it's gotten a lot of positive reviews. So I'm gonna try to stick it out, but so far I've been like, what the hell is happening?
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of it, but it sounds like I might like it.
Yeah, I think it's on. I think you would, but it's just you have to be more involved than I am in it probably because it is kind of convoluted.
I hate when I start something that I want to watch because I'm like, people recommended this to me, and then I'm just like not paying attention.
Correct.
And I'm like, now I need to
That's
do this
exactly
again.
what it is.
I
now
get
you gotta
so
start
annoyed
over.
at myself.
Yeah.
I get so annoyed at myself.
Yeah. Now you gotta start over. So that's where I am.
Behind Her Eyes.
Behind Her Eyes. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah. What you got going on?
I watched the Challenger documentary miniseries.
Oh,
it was on Netflix.
I've watched that.
You
Yeah.
did? Yeah, I think it was like it's like a year old, but I had never noticed it because Netflix like buries certain things.
Yeah, I watched it pretty recently.
It was so good.
It was good.
I was blown away. I think even if you know the whole story, it's
Yikes,
still
blown away.
Oh, yikes.
No pun intended.
Yeah, I think even if you know the entire story, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, it's just really well done the way they talk to family members
Agreed.
and other people that were in the crew. So they don't, most people know like the O-ring failed and they don't even spend too much time. At the end, they cover it, but they don't spend too much time just like harping on that.
Yeah, and literally that's what people knew about it was that the O-ring failed. Yeah. Basically that was it. Yeah.
But like everything that led up to that and just, I don't know, just it really like gives you that like nostalgic feeling about like how like America used to feel about going to space.
Correct.
And like how proud people were of it.
Yeah.
And just like these people that were chosen, like how important it was.
Truly
and special,
chosen.
And just
Yeah.
for it to just end that way.
Yeah.
And just the people watching, and then it just not.
Yeah, and I was actually on that. And this is probably no doubt dating me, but I was in school, and I remember watching this live because there was a teacher. The big deal was that there was a teacher going into space, and so we watched it live in class. And I remember, this is like a Gen X thing, right? So everybody who's Gen X remembers this moment.
You were really young.
I was young. Yeah. But I'm watching this, I'm seeing like elementary school. We're watching this and something happens. And I remember being like, something's not right. That feeling that something wasn't right and having the teachers quickly try to turn the TV off.
Yeah. I relate to that on a 9/11 level,
right,
with the second tower. So, it's like people they didn't know what a launch looks like.
Correct.
So they weren't sure. So
exactly.
It was this look of half, like still clapping and excitement and half still.
And then you're just like, this doesn't seem right. Yeah.
But yeah, it made me really sad and like, I don't know, it got to me. So.
Yeah, it was a very well done documentary though. It really gave the human side to these figures that are now historical. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I recommend it.
Yeah, agree. I can agree on that one. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So what we got going on today?
So today we are talking about personality tests.
Woohoo.
Woohoo. Specifically the Myers Briggs test, which is like the big one.
Yeah.
MBTI, right? Myers Briggs. I think that's. So yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
You'll find out our types and a whole lot more.
Yeah.
What we think about it.
Exactly. So let me say this. What do you think is well, first of all, just kind of an overview.
Yeah.
Right? Personality tests are pretty much about 30 questions, something like that.
Yeah.
Depending on the test.
Yeah, you can. I feel like you can find longer ones as well.
Okay. And then you just answer on certain scenarios.
Yeah, they typically are like a range of like strongly agree to strongly disagree, maybe a range of like 5 or 7 little like bullet points, and you kind of track how much you agree or disagree. I think those are how they're usually formatted.
Right.
We can get in. We took 2.
Yeah.
One of them had a set of questions that there were just 2 statements, and you chose one of the 2.
Correct.
But it's typically a scale, so you have kind of a variety of,
Yeah, which I think one of them we took was more of a scale. I think once it got to like the last couple of pages, they did do a scale version of it.
The first one we took was fully a scale. It was 7 questions from agree to disagree with 7 points. And then the other one we took was a scale of 5 agree to disagree, and then the second half of it was just 2 statements, and you had to pick one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and those were both Myers Briggs tests. So,
right. Yeah. So, what do we think is the draw to personality tests?
Part of it is just people like answering questions about themselves. So I think, besides from the results, I think people just like, some people, maybe it depends on your personality type, because some people don't care at all. Yeah. I think some people just like the process of answering questions about themselves. Right. And then I guess, people like to answer because people, I guess, like being explained in kind of like a nice little package, and knowing there are other people that are the same as them.
Right. So, yeah.
What do you think? Do you think there's more to it than that, or?
Yeah, I mean, so when I think about them, I wonder if they are in an aspect of kind of how it is when you look in the mirror, right? Which is whenever you look in the mirror, you are the only person that sees this person, right? And so I think about when you take this personality test, is it really like looking in the mirror to where you are confirming that this person that you see in the mirror is actually you, yet this does not reflect to the people who know you, right?
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I think, so I think I always like kind of taking different quizzes and tests, and I think Myers Briggs is what really kind of got me obsessed, because when I found my result and read about my type, I felt that it explained me so much, at the time at least. So I was just so excited about it. Like just some of the ways I described it, which was I would describe myself, I was really excited about it. And you wonder if it's like, what other people think that's true as well, or are you just kind of confirming your own beliefs about yourself?
Exactly. Like it literally is a mirror, Yeah. Because I remember, and I don't know, I mean, we'll get into more detail obviously about it, but I remember, and there's usually a lot of questions about thinking and thought, right? And this idea of if you are able to express your thoughts, if people know what your thoughts are. And so to me, where you answer that question could be where it is just very personal within you. And so this test is going to say, hey, I know you. But then, of course, somebody else would not, right?
Yeah.
Because you're answering in a way of saying, no, I don't express myself in this way.
Yeah, I do think, I think it does a better job than other personality tests in this sense that a lot of the questions kind of imply that it's your perspective of it. So saying, like, I like to do this, like, that is, you get to determine that, you know?
Right.
Compared to, like, just tests that just, like, ask you, like, I am funny, I am confident, like, those are very, you might have completely different answers than if someone else says, is Casey funny, you know?
Correct.
So I think, I've never liked those. I think those are kind of bogus. So I think this does a better job of taking into account that you're the one answering the questions. But yeah, there definitely are, you know, I don't think it's perfect, and it would be interesting if someone else took it on your behalf, like someone that knew you well.
Yeah. Because it's pretty much self-reflective, I think, in a way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There used to be this show, and not to completely get off subject, but in that way, there used to be this show, and I think they turned it into a game, and it was called Who Knows You Best. And that is exactly what it was. It was almost like the personality test for somebody who knows you. And so what they would do is that they would take, you know, it would be those same types of questions, you know, somewhat.
Yeah.
And then they would take it and then come up with whatever your personality was, right? Because I guess the whole premise is that, you know, you're always the somebody to somebody else.
Of course.
So
I remember when I was really into it, I would have loved, like, to recruit everyone I knew to take it, answering for me. Like, but other people didn't have that much interest in it, you know, and who wants to spend that much time answering questions about me? Like, that's, you know, that's pretty, like, egotistical on my behalf. So I remember I got to a point where I think I even went to, like, message boards for my type, and I was like, oh, Myers Briggs is, like, the truth. But I was like, wait, is me thinking it so truthful part of my personality type? And if I was a different type, it's not. So it's all, it's kind of plays with your mind in that way.
Yeah. All right, so we can get into, we did recently retake the test. I know we both have taken this test before, multiple times.
Yes.
Over the course of many, many years.
Yes.
So we did recently take it, so we can talk about what we got now.
Yeah.
So where'd you land?
Okay. So I have always had the same type. I've taken, so when I was really into this was 2012. That might have been the first time I took it. And I've taken it a few times over the years, and I have always gotten the same type. My, like, how much I've leaned towards the type, like, changes. I guess we should clarify there's, like, Myers-Briggs, you get 4 different letters.
Right.
And there's, each letter's between 2 choices. So I always get the same 4 letters, but sometimes certain of those letters are, like, more.
The degrees of
degree,
yeah, vary.
So I am an INTJ.
Okay.
So I guess I'll just say, like, what those are. Like, so the I is introverted, and that's introverted over extroverted. The N is intuitive over sensing. The T is thinking over feeling. And the J is judging over perceiving. So, yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Like, I think the questions are pretty different sometimes in some of the tests, and I always get that. This was interesting, though. So the 2 we took, I got INTJ. One of them, my thinking and feeling was, like, very close. So I was close to an INFJ, but I was still an INTJ. Yeah. And then the other one, that wasn't the case. My thinking was strong. My judging, perceiving was close. So I was still INTJ, but close to INTP. So yeah, it's always interesting to see, like, even though I get the same thing, like, it's not
there's varying degrees. Yeah.
It's not, and I always wonder, like, oh, if I, like, this one where I was INTJ, I was probably, like, 1 question off for me INFJ, which was interesting to me. So yeah, fellow INTJs out there,
holla at your girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it, you know, I relate to it. So
yeah.
You know, I'm not. Try not to be married to it. I have to be like, okay, if I get something else, it will be okay. But yeah, how about you? What Myers Briggs type are you?
So I can say that since forever I have been INFP, and this has been, I mean, since every time I've taken the test. However, I have always bordered on my perceiving judging, right, has always been pretty borderline. So this time that I took the test, both tests that we just recently took, I flip-flopped and am now INFJ. So I don't know if it's like my older age now that's put me more in judgment more than perceiving.
And both of them you were INFJ?
Both of them I was INFJ, okay. Yeah. So, and you know, like I said, that there was, I will never forget one of the questions on this Myers Briggs test from so long ago, and it really was, you know, do you prefer justice over mercy? And you know, my insides were screaming of like justice, you know, justice. So I think as I got older, which I realized that now a lot of the whole INFJ is like advocates, counselors, you know, that type of thing. And INFPs are more creative type writers, you know, stuff like that. So I can see myself definitely, you know, kind of borderline on both of them.
Right.
But I have flipped.
Wow.
Yeah, I've officially flipped.
Yeah, I think I love being an INTJ, but if I ever flip to an INTP, which I don't, although one of these I did say my JP was close, but usually it's not. I think that I'd be like, like, I don't know. That's to me like a really cool type. I mean, I like all the IN types. Which IN types unite.
Correct.
So. Which
is introverted, intuitive.
Yeah, those I don't budge. Those two variables, I'm like so far.
Yeah, I'm like 90s, high 90s. Oh, wow, I'm not going anywhere.
Do you like? It's funny. I get really excited at the questions that I like have. I know the answers to. Like,
completely.
Like I like start some stuff here, but just for me, like anything I mean, I don't know exactly what questions pertain to what variables, but anything that's like talking about being around lots of people, I'm like, no
absolutely
way.
Always a no.
I know, it's so easy. I love when the answer's like so easy. And for me, even more than like being around people, it's any of the questions that are like, you love being the center of attention. I'm like, no,
always
hard, no. The furthest no.
Yeah.
So like, I can't even imagine
like a glaring
being, like,
red light.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can say that there's one thing that I really learned about the personality type between introvert and extrovert. And it's the idea that the extrovert recharges with, you know, outward energy. And the introvert recharges with inward energy. And there was one question that said something about, you know, after a long week or something like that, you know, what's the best way? Like, you want to get your energy from some party or something. And I'm like,
no
what?
Way.
Why would I want to do that?
I know. There's some
absolutely
that I'm like,
not.
There's some. Well, first of all, one thing I will say about that is I find we know what it's like to really be an introvert.
Correct.
Not to like claim introversion, but it's very trendy right now for people to be like, I'm an introvert and an extrovert. And I think that's an extroverted thing to say because, of course, even an extrovert, there's times they want to be alone. Of course. You'd have to be like 100%.
Correct.
So I think there's all these extroverts now that are like, oh, well, sometimes I like to read a book in my bedroom. I'm an introvert and an extrovert. And I'm just like, you do not know what it means to be an introvert.
No.
Like,
it really is the way
it's
that
so
you know, where you get your energy.
And an extrovert.
Yeah, no. I think a lot of it is the way you get your energy.
Yeah.
You know, and the way you do have to recharge.
Yeah.
Here's a question, though. How much, to go along with the whole idea of the personality test being somewhat of looking in the mirror, how much weight does society, you think, put on these tests?
So I don't really know how. I think this is a pretty popular test, but I'm sure there are a lot of people that just don't even have a clue what it is. So I don't know how much weight society puts on these tests, especially if you said someone like, are you judging or perceiving? Like, I don't think most people even know what that means.
Right.
I do think if you look at some of the variables, though, I do think introversion and extroversion society puts a huge emphasis on.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that would be the big one for me. I think the other ones take like a deeper level of understanding. So yeah, I mean, society to me definitely prefers extroverts.
I have no doubt.
Yeah.
About that. I mean, I was one of those, because a lot of the companies and stuff like that, a lot of them give personality tests as, something for you to pass to get a job. I was one of those who failed a personality test.
Can you say what kind of job it was, or?
Yeah, so it was for it was like a security position.
Okay.
Yeah. And see, here's one of the things about that is that I failed the test because I'm sure that they were looking for more of an extrovert type of personality, right? And this is where I felt like it failed, because where I am an introvert, right? Completely recharges from being alone or my own kind of little bubble. I'm also a very personable person and can make myself fit into any situation that's necessary, right? And so in that way, I really did not get the job when I feel as if I could have obviously done the work.
Yeah, of course.
But I think that they were looking for an extroverted type of personality.
Yeah. It's crazy to me. So what I like about Myers Briggs is it pretty much frames there's 16 types. It pretty much frames the positives of all of them. It mentions some negatives of each type, but I think it really mostly digs into the positives of each type, which is nice. And I always had a sense that companies, especially companies that gave personality tests, were looking for extroverts. And I will say now that I am an employer and I've been to like conferences and just different types of events with other employers, that is blatant.
Right.
And it is so confusing to me because I do not understand what extroversion versus introversion has to do with doing a good job at all.
Yeah.
We don't give personality tests. We give like tests that, like skill tests if our job requires certain technical skills, but not personality tests. Yeah. I would, and this is my own bias, like I think if we did give personality tests, I would look for introverts.
Right.
Because I understand them, and I tend to think, I'm sure anyone can be a hard worker, but I just tend to understand how introverts can work hard and how they work hard. And it's strange to me that companies don't want introverts. Like I don't get it.
And I guess it was because of the company, right? Because you had it was one of those security companies that you would have had to interact with people. Yeah. And so the whole idea is, do you have the personality to interact with people? Yeah. Well, I'm from New Orleans. Yeah. Yes, I have the personality to interact with people. It doesn't mean that I need to be extroverted to do that.
Doesn't.
But, a lot of jobs have done that, I know, have relied on personality tests.
Yeah, there's like these 4 or 5 like big factors that like when you go to these like like small business and just talk about hiring, that these like factors I talk to in employees, I like don't buy into that, so I don't remember what they are. So they aren't the same as Myers Briggs, but extroversion is one of them. Yeah. And so that is very valued in our society. It's also extroversion is way more common, which is interesting as well. Correct. I actually found this talking about jobs. So I remember when I used to take Myers Briggs back like 10 years ago, and then it would show me like jobs that INTJ would be good at. I didn't relate to them at all. Yeah. It was like computer programming, and it was like basically anything where you're alone in a room, like very analytical. Which I'm not it doesn't totally turn me off, but it's not what the fields I've been in, and it would never come up. But now they've adapted a bit. Right. So now, and I think they probably do this for most types, they basically suggest that most types I think can have a bunch of different types of job, and it's more how you do that job. So I thought this was interesting because it said INTJs pursue low-profile but influential roles as project managers, system engineers, marketing strategists, system analysts, and military strategists. So project management and marketing strategy is like literally what I'm in. So that was cool because in the past, something like marketing I would never saw it in like an INTJ's profile. So I think, more is being understood now that, people different types can do many different jobs. They just might have a different approach to such a job.
Exactly. And I think that's the difference. Like when I, falling under INTP, it was always things like
INFP,
a lot of,
right?
INFP,
Okay.
yes. It was always things like writing and stuff like that, which are things that I can completely get with and I saw, right? And then INFJ, as well as, my swing personality, was and is like activism and stuff like that. So once again, I can totally see that.
Yeah.
But I wonder how much we would, I can get it and I completely see the writing and the activism, of course.
Yeah.
Right? But then at the same time, I'm like, how much, like you looked at that and said, yeah, no, not me.
Yeah.
Like how much do we box ourselves into these type, like the mirror?
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, I know. I think because this is something I resonated with so much, I like tried to find the parts of it that didn't make sense as much. Actually, also when I retook the test, there was like all these different things. It was like relationships, friendships. I kind of talked how you were in all of these different things. And one was parenting, so I'm like, I'm going to click on that because I probably never even read that in the past.
Right.
Because 10 years ago, I wasn't thinking about being a parent. And there were parts of it like I related to. Let's see if I wrote any of it down. I don't know if I did. And parts of it I didn't relate to at all. I did a bit. So it's so funny. Like the internet or like these quizzes love to define INTJs as like being a robot, to not having any emotions, and it gets so extreme sometimes. And maybe it's because my like T and F thinking/feeling isn't so far thinking, so maybe that's why I think it's a lot. But I never relate to that stuff at all. I relate to the point of it that's like we shouldn't be making like rash decisions based on emotion, so that I'm all for. But the whole like, you can't have like deep emotional connections is just ridiculous. So it's like an INTJ might be like hard finding like these like emotional bonds with their children. I'm just like, no, I don't relate to that at all. But then I liked this to me, I'm like, it's like complete type of parent I'll be. It says some personality types might shelter their children from difficult subjects, but INTJ parents typically believe that knowledge is far better than ignorance. For them, candor is a way of showing respect, and shielding their children from reality would be a disservice. And I was kind of raised this way, and I only see myself like even more doing this with my child. Like my husband and I, we will not censor like anything. Like, again, and it's just different parenting styles, but I can't imagine caring what he listens to, what he watches, what video games he plays. Like, that kind of stuff, like, I would have to, like, really actively be a person I am not to try and be like, that's too violent or that has too much nudity. Like, those things don't emotionally, like, trigger me.
Right.
Especially when it comes to, like, movies and video games. So yeah, he's going to be able to listen and
do
watch whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah.
So,
make his own assessment.
Yeah. I don't like censorship. I don't like any of that.
Yeah. So, and see, I grew up completely opposite from that.
Yeah. Like I said, my parents pretty much were that way. And I even want to do it. I even want to do it more. So it's so interesting to me that, like, it's probably not the normal way to be. A normal person probably, like, has something on the TV and is like, this is inappropriate. And I just, whatever that, like, societal norm is, like, I can't.
Right.
I'm, like, clueless to it almost. Like, I know it's there, but I don't feel it at all.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Did you go through any of, like, the different, like, things?
Like traits?
Like, yeah, for, like, how you are in, like, a job or friendships or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So, apparently I'm the counselor type. I'm the one who, like, puts myself, my feelings and emotions aside for the people.
Yeah.
I mean, again, typically these things are pretty on point,
Yeah.
right? And then I think, though, with these types of algorithms, like, I get who this has to be. First of all, Myers Briggs were women.
Yes.
Okay, let's just put that out there.
Yeah.
Because people really.
A mom and a daughter.
Correct. And a lot of people just have the assumption that they're men, but they're women, yeah. And, but I think that the specifics of the questions is really what gets you to knowing yourself. Like there's a science to these questions.
Yes.
Because like the things that they say is for I am that type of person, right?
Yeah.
Overall on the surface, then yes, I can totally see this. So those very specific questions can lead you there. At the same time, I mean, of course, there are things that it cannot, could say about me, right?
Of course.
But it pretty much is very on point with some of those things. But again, that is based on,
I love how you said how a big part of yours is like putting other people first, because for me, how I talked about how there were some questions I love because like, I'm like, yes, that is me, or that isn't me so strongly. There's a few types of questions that I feel like I don't know the answer to, and there's two types, and one of those is that it's the ones that's like, I put myself first. If you give me like a scale, I put myself first and I put other people first. Like, I'm just like, like I can't, I don't feel strongly one way or the other.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's
the
some
neutral
people
is what like, stresses me out.
Yeah, that. So any questions that kind of had to do with that, I think I even started that or something. I can't. And any questions where I feel like they're so circumstance based, where for me, like, you want to be the center of attention, that's not very circumstance based for me. That is no, hard no. But for you, obviously, you resonate to like wanting to help people over yourself. For me, I just think of so many circumstances one way or the other, and I'm frozen. I can't answer it. I guess I just choose neutral, but I don't even really like that because I don't feel neutral about it. I feel that there are so many.
It's circumstantial. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other ones for me then there's so many of these are about like planning things in advance versus doing things in the moment.
Yes.
Those I'm like paralyzed. I can't answer them.
Those are hard for me too. That's no lie. Those are very hard for me too.
So hard.
Because I like structure. There is no doubt about it that I like structure. At the same time, I am an emotional person. And so as much as I like structure, if my emotions can sometimes dictate otherwise, that structure is like blown up to like restructure to something else, and so those are very hard.
There's so many of those questions. I don't even know which variable that's getting at. J versus P, maybe? Do you think?
Probably so.
Like J is more structured.
Yeah,
probably J versus P. But those, I'm like, there's too many of these because sometimes my life is like very organized and sometimes it's a hot mess and I'm like, I can't choose one side or the other. But there are people that obviously they look at that and they're like, oh, I'm the most organized person ever. Easy. So
just how we can look at it and say, oh no, I do not want to have a long week and then recharge in a group of large people. Yeah.
And there's some that are just like so funny. I'm like, do some people disagree with this? Like this was the second question I think on one of the tests we took. It says you spend a lot of your free time exploring various random topics that pique your interest. So I said the most strongly agree. Are there people that read that and they're like, I don't spend time exploring topics that are there people that choose that?
That's what I wonder.
Blows my mind.
Like, that seems as if that's so obvious.
That seems
of course,
obvious.
You want to explore things, but again, just as the same way of us being so adamant about being introverted, right?
Yeah.
That there are people who are so adamant about things. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I really don't.
So like this one, you enjoy watching people argue.
Oh yeah, I remember that question.
Yeah. So I mean, I put the second strongest disagree, just because I'm like interested in things, but I'm like, do people say strongly agree? I enjoy watching people argue.
Yeah, I think some people do. And I remember that question, and I was thinking, I cannot stand conflict so much so that No, I don't. Like, it disturbs
you probably feel like the most
me.
strongly disagree.
Yeah.
I put the second tier, like, just because I do tend to be, like, a little nosy.
Yeah.
But I still don't like it.
I mean, I can get with that. But I'm going to tell you that there were some shows that I've watched, I used to watch as a kid.
Yeah.
And then I went back to watch them, and I see a lot of arguing, like, between the couples or something like that, and it distresses me. Like, I cannot take it. I don't like it. But if my neighbors are fussing, I might be like, what are they fussing about? Like, what's happening over there?
Yeah.
So I don't like watching it.
Okay.
But if it's like, a voyeurism type thing with like the neighbors next door,
right?
I would be like,
I just want to meet the person
what are they doing?
Strongly agree. I like watching.
I don't get that person.
We're like pretty alike, our two types.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I have two I want to ask you just because I'm like curious if these maybe are like what makes us different.
Okay.
All right. So you have a scale of 5.
Mm-hmm.
So strongly agree, strongly disagree. So 5 points.
Okay.
Emotional people make me uncomfortable.
Wow. See, that was one of mine that was tough.
Okay.
Because I get emotional people. At the same time, they make me uncomfortable.
That's
and
funny.
it's tough because I am a feelings person.
Yeah.
That's a part of my personality. But people, and that was really hard because I'm like, how emotional is this? Like,
I think the same thing. How
like
emotional?
the crier all the time, like the one who cries for everything, like that person.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could make me. I think I went neutral.
You went neutral
on that one.
Yeah. So I went the farthest strongly agree. I was like,
oh wow,
yes.
yeah.
So
totally,
this is where I get
completely,
my T from, and not
probably
my F,
so.
And then the other one, similar.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy being there for people when they are feeling sad.
I'm trying to think what I put for that one. But that one I see, this is what makes it hard.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can be there for people.
I
when
think
they're
of you
feeling
as
sad,
someone
right?
that would be,
But enjoyment is like the operative word, right?
Okay,
So I'm able to do it. I don't mind doing it. Like I would love to. I love being that person to say I can be there.
It.
But that's not enjoyment necessarily.
Okay.
Like that's a pretty, that's where I get caught up, right? In the very specifics of the definitions of these, because I feel like that's a little bit of trickery.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am that person that, if somebody said I can be there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, but I know for sure I did not pick the most extreme agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't pick the most extreme disagree, but the next one next to it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Because emotional people make you uncomfortable.
Yeah. I just reading that question, I knew I was like, I don't think most people would answer this the way I would.
Yeah.
But that's where my INTJ comes
But again,
from.
also, so here's what I think about that too, is that I think about, again, the idea of the mirror, right? Mm-hmm. So I imagine myself to be that person, but at the same time, it does make me, like I said, the enjoyment truly is the operative word in that sentence.
That's interesting.
And willingness to do it is one thing. Enjoying doing it is something else. Mm-hmm. Like getting pleasure from it is something else, right? And that's how I see the term enjoyment on that end. But there are people who somebody can be in an emotional state and they are willing to just step right on in there. And that's not me.
Yeah.
Like I love being the person that can be there for you.
Yeah.
But I'm not like, oh, you're so sad. Here I am. I'm not sad rescuer at all.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that is one of those that was a pretty tough answer for me.
Okay.
But definitely closer to feeling, obviously.
Yeah, that's what I would have. That's what I would think for you. So
yeah.
That's why I kind of point. I mean, there was hundreds of questions here between the two tests.
Yeah. Yeah, one of those like look in the mirror as opposed to what somebody sees.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should take them for each other.
I think we should.
I would do it for you, but
yeah, I would totally do yours too.
Okay,
yeah, I think we should.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We'll report back next time.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you Do you remember, like, when and why you first got into this or took the test or anything?
I know it's been a really long time. I don't remember why I made the decision to do it, but I just think that I'm just a person who likes understanding minds and thoughts and the way people function and operate, including myself.
So when I first got into it, I made everyone I know take this test.
Okay,
and
I had pretty much same.
Same. Mm-hmm. I had forgotten, so I actually did like a search on my laptop because I've transferred so many documents to me over time. I'm like, I'm just going to search INTJ because I'm sure some things will come up.
Right.
We found some old emails we had back in like 2014.
Long time ago, yeah.
But to me, 2012, I was messaging. I have to tell you, I can, like, see old Facebook messages that are, like, archived. And I searched INTJ.
Yeah.
Something comes up. I'm like, Gary Snowball. I'm like, who's
Gary Snowball?
I'm like, who is Gary Snowball? I'm having this. Apparently, I just messaged this guy named Gary Snowball saying, like, do you do Myers Briggs? Anyway, I was, like,
very weird.
Thinking it through. I used to live in, like, this kind of crazy art house. And there's this guy that came by. He had, like, a truck and he sold snowballs. Which other places in the country, they're like snow cones or like shaved ice.
Yeah.
But snowballs here in New Orleans. And that's how I knew him. He literally had a snowball truck, and he would sell to this art house. He would sell us like cheap snowballs.
And you were in his phone. He was in your phone as Gary Snowball.
Yeah, I somehow found. I guess I got his contact information. And the first thing I asked him was if he knows his Myers Briggs type. And I didn't have like a
really
crush on him or anything like that at all. Like I just was obsessed with knowing everyone, including Gary Snowballs.
That's very bizarre.
But I was like blown away at the conversations I was having with people I barely knew about this.
And this was actually a lot of people even, of course, now put this, and I'm saying I know this. I don't know it for sure, of course, at this point.
Yeah.
But on their profiles and stuff, like dating profiles, they put their personality types.
I did.
Yeah. They put their personality types.
My husband and I kind of like bonded over talking when I met him about personality types.
And you and I, almost the same. It was just like we had all these back and forths, and then I don't know how. I'm quite certain you probably brought it up.
I like had to know people's types.
Yeah.
And if they didn't know, I was like, please take this test.
Yeah,
and I would always guess
me.
it. I always guessed it in my head before they took it. I was often right, and I was like proud of that. And if I was wrong, I'd be like, oh, like how did I misjudge them? Like,
yeah, I think you asked me, did I know my type? But I had a whole list. I mean, I had written out
you
paragraphs.
Like, had all this stuff ready. You were like the first one.
I had
Other
a small
people were
pamphlet.
Either like, what? Or they're like, yeah, why are you asking?
Yeah. No, I had a small pamphlet
on. I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found some weird. Okay, I actually found a really funny conversation too. So my husband's also INTJ, which is kind of funny.
That is.
I found this conversation when I first started talking to my husband, but we weren't really serious yet, and I knew we were both INTJ. And there's this other guy I was friendly with that's INTJ, and I found a conversation I had with him being like, because I clearly had a crush on my husband. I was like, so what do you think about like two INTJs dating? And I was like asking him like all these questions, like
almost like the zodiac.
And I'm like, what? And like, this is someone I barely talk to. Like, I was obsessed.
Yeah. And then it does make me think though, like how much do we put this in with like the zodiac, right? Like signs, and because in a way it's almost the same type of nature as far as it's not questions, but it's still, this is your personality, like this is I just wonder how much is this different from that.
What do you think? Why don't you go first? Because
let's see. I think in a way, because so for instance, I am a Taurus, right? Which also just means that I'm born under the sign of Taurus.
Okay.
And, of course it is wherever the sun, whatever constellation the sun was in at the time that you were born, right? And so the nature of that constellation is attributed to the nature of the person born during that time. There are a lot of things that people say about a Taurus, right? Like you're stubborn, you're loyal, you're this, you're that. these things are things that are pretty accurate. Without any questions.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So then I don't know, because I wonder how much this is an algorithm trickery to have the same, to know exactly what to ask, to get to these things that are going to, you know, read you like a tarot card. You know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Okay.
I'm still on the fence about that.
So, first of all, here's where I'm with this.
Okay.
Basically, half of what you said to me is gibberish. Constellations.
As far as the constellations and
all that. Yeah. I don't know or care about zodiac signs in any way. Did you know that before? I knew you wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. I'm like, I don't know if Christy knows what I think about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care about it. So here's where I compare the two. I think placing too much value in either of them is not healthy. I was way too obsessed with Myers Briggs back in the day. So I think, putting too much value in either is unhealthy. I think kind of, you know, it being this, like, you know, self, like, perpetuating cycle where you're just, like, validating the results and, like, trying to fit into the box it gave you is not a good thing. So that can happen with anything, something you take that has, like, valid results or not. You can kind of fall into that and define yourself and then not want to go outside the box.
Correct.
In terms of, like, the methodology, like, I don't believe in zodiac at all. I think it's so random. I don't know really anything about it.
Right.
But I will say where you are, like, whatever the Taurus, like, traits are, you're like, oh, yeah, I know I'm Cancer. I know very little about it, but I was at a bachelorette party, and they were all super into zodiac. I'd also love to know why it's, like, way more women are into it than men. So that's
we need to
interesting
talk about
that. So I was at a bachelorette party. Everyone was super into it, and I was the one saying, like, I don't know, I don't care. But they had this book, and they're like, it's not just like Cancer. It charts out, like, all this stuff. Like, it's way more deep than that. And I was like, fine, I'll look at my birthday. I'll do all this. And I read the whole thing, and I was like, this does not describe me at all.
Yeah.
And maybe you could say, like, oh, well, I already knew I was against it, so I was looking for it. But I felt like it had nothing to do with me. Compared to Myers Briggs, I would say you are literally answering things about your personality.
Right.
So if anything, I'd say Myers Briggs is accurate, but maybe it's not as telling as it pretends to be because you're giving it where you said Zodiac, you're not giving it the answers.
Right.
This, you're giving it the answer, and then it's telling you the answer, and you're like, and it's like, ooh, wow.
Correct.
But you literally just gave it the answers.
I mean,
so I'd say that's like the funny thing about these tests.
I mean, I feel as if, so if anything, I feel as if the difference really is in the magician, right? As far as, you know, you really are giving it the answers for it to tell you the answer, and then you're like, ooh, that's so amazing. When I think about the zodiac just in comparison, you know, between it, which I don't believe in the zodiac in that way, but I am a believer in constellations and the moon and everything affecting things on Earth, right? I mean, if the moon is going to affect the oceans, and we are made up majority of water, then why wouldn't it affect us? That's just my mindset on things like that. So when I think, and we can do like an episode on this because I feel like this would be really good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have very little to say, but I mean,
you have opinions.
I can respond and react to the things that you'll be telling me. That's fine.
Yeah, but what I feel is if they're probably on the same plane. You know, so you have one that is, you know, like I said, like the earth was acting in a certain way during this time, and so you must act in the way of this particular thing. And then you have the thing that you are literally feeding it for it to tell you what you are. And to me, I guess on the other end of that, there's one that is giving you the answers based on whatever was happening during that time. One is giving you the answers on you giving it answers. So I feel like the outcomes are pretty much the same. Because to me, on the very other end of it, is that it's always the way you are reflected to someone else, right?
Okay.
That's how I.
Yeah, that's valid.
Yeah.
Here's my thing though. If you say
Mm-hmm.
they're kind of within the same realm,
Mm-hmm.
and this is where I'll never understand zodiac, then are you saying everyone that's a Taurus is INFJ? That seems very unlikely. Am I saying everyone that's a Cancer is INTJ? That seems impossible. Like,
right.
So
right.
that's
Completely. Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah.
that's
No,
why
I don't think it's that specific.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, and again, I'm not a zodiac person in that way, right?
You can be. I'm used to it, literally.
No, I mean, I am in a way
of
I know my sign, and you know, there are like 3 very specific traits of this particular sign. That I can say, okay, well, yeah, sure.
Wait, do you know anything about Cancer?
I really don't know a lot about Cancer, no.
If you were like...
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny, too, because all my friends that were into it, once I was, like, reading them at this bachelor, my thing, and pointing out, like, this is the opposite of me, they were like, oh, yeah, I guess you aren't really... But I feel like it's only because I was, like, pointing out how these things don't describe me.
Right.
So, I don't know. I think you could, I guess anything you can always... look for things that are like to validate or invalidate, you know.
Of course, yeah. I mean, you're going to find anything that like runs contrary to what you want your opinion to be, right? But yeah, I mean, I think that the emphasis that is put on personality tests is, I in a way feel like is not that much different. You know, because it really is you telling it what to think of you. So it really is just, to me, like a mirror reflection.
Yeah. I think that's, like, realizing that's maybe put less value in it. I guess it's just interesting, like, the more variables you add. Like we said, Myers Briggs has, like, 16 types and, like, 4 different, you know, variables, 8 different variables, and kind of how they determine these variables work together. I think, like, if anything, like, add more, like, make it even more nuanced and more, because obviously these 4 things are not the only, like, dichotomies in your personality. There's probably complete fields that they're missing in Myers-Briggs, which would also, layering that on top would add another, like, depth to, like, what, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, to me, the personality tests are accurate, but they're just, they can't show everything, and yeah, I'm excited to see if we take it for each other.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. We need to do that.
Do you think I'm going to get your type if I take it for you?
I think you'll come pretty close.
I think you will too.
Yeah.
And, like, don't answer it like you think I would answer it. Just answer
no,
it
I'm just going to answer it the way I see you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, so there's oh my god, I can't remember the name of the song by Norris Barkley, but it says something like, you know, if I ever wanted to understand me, I have to talk to someone else.
Yeah. That's true.
And it's like one of the biggest revelations that you have about yourself.
Yes.
You know, is the idea that you are really just a being in society. So as much as you understand your own self, which is perfectly fine, like you totally should, but at the same time, your interactions are always with, like, unless you completely live in an isolated life, it's always about interaction with other people.
And then you could get really philosophical. This is basically what you're getting at and saying is all you are, everyone's perceptions of you.
Correct.
Like, without that, are you basically void of anything?
Who are
like,
you?
is literally what you are, every single person.
Every single
person's
perception. Yeah. I mean, because, again, you know, like I say, you look in the mirror, you are literally the only person that sees that person.
Yeah.
You know, if you part your hair on the left, I don't see it on the left. That's everybody else is going to see it on the right, right? I mean,
that's good.
So everything that you do in the mirror, you're the only person that sees that person.
Yeah.
So I think about the test as far as being reiteration of yourself, but also no bearing on you in society.
Do you think if a person took the test, maybe multiple different Myers-Briggs tests, and got the same type over and over again, and then everyone everyone that knew that person took the test and got something opposite. Who are they? Are they the one that they took, or are they the one that everyone else took for them?
Exactly. I think that you are, to yourself, obviously one person, but in reality, you are who people see you to be.
Yeah, most people are not willing to face that.
But that is the reality.
Yeah.
Look. All right, so
Wait, can we just do one thing first?
Yes, because I'm about to say, we have now set a date to take these tests for each other.
I know.
So we're going to have to do a follow-up.
I'll probably honestly do it today because I'm like...
I
love taking the test. So I will probably do it today.
Yeah, okay.
If I don't get too busy. But I'm like into it. But I guess this is just a fun thing. Or is there any like other like big important things you want?
Okay. No, go for it.
Especially like talking about philosophers. Do you I loved when I used to be into this, like looking at other like famous people or even like fictional characters that were my type.
Yeah.
Or even I would try and like type famous or fictional. Did you know any like famous or notable people that are your type, and do you relate to them or anything?
I mean, like Martin Luther King.
Okay.
You know.
Wait, is this INFJ or INF?
So this is
you're on
INFJ,
the border,
but I'm on the border.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, but it was always like advocates, writers, Mother Teresa.
We don't love her though, right?
No, we do not.
Okay.
We don't, but I think it's less of the person and more of the image of who she is, because the idea was that she was like this, counselor, healer type thing, because you're also, especially INFP side, you are considered like a healer in a way. Yeah, so I felt like the people that I saw, a lot of them I would, in a way, identify with.
Yeah.
Right?
I always wonder with these lists, obviously some of the older figures, they're just typing them, but I do think maybe some of the more modern figures, if they do see that someone famous has noted they took it, they probably put them in the category they say. But yeah, I always feel looking at INTJ, I am like super drawn to the list. I actually like looked through all of them because I wanted to see, again, is this confirmation bias? Where I'm like, oh yeah, all this INT. Yeah. And there's some types I like, again, it's always the INs. I like the INTJs, INFJs, love, again, those INTPs. It's like my wannabe.
Yeah.
But in terms of INTJ, so I love that Sartre was.
Okay.
I was really into him. He's like an existential French philosopher. I used to be obsessed with him. So a bunch of the existential philosophers they actually had as INTJ, but I noted him in particular because I was into him. And then Isaac Asimov, which is like the sci-fi philosopher and writer, super into him. So and John Nash, the mathematician. So just people that, even before I knew about Myers Briggs, I was just like really into their philosophies. My favorite thing, I have a few good ones. I think my favorite thing when I looked at the list of notable INTJs was that both Karl Marx and Ayn Rand were INTJ.
Okay.
Which to me is just like perfect because it's not about your actual philosophy. It's not about your actual job. It's about like your approach to these things.
Right.
And it's so funny because like, I think Karl Marx is a little older than. I think he died around when she was born. Hope I'm getting that right. That sounds right.
Yes.
But like just imagining them like together. He's like ultra communist versus ultra capitalist, and that I loved. I find them both fascinating as well.
Yeah.
So that's funny. I think my social circles tend to like obviously hate Ayn Rand. I don't agree with her philosophies for the most part, but I'm around people that's like, she's an idiot. And I'm like, she's actually brilliant. You just don't agree with, like, her philosophy and her political ideology. But, like, she's a very smart woman. And so I love those two being the same category. And then, like, they would give you some that are, like, evil or bad, which is always fun to look at. So for me, I was pretty excited that Ted Kaczynski is an INTJ, or so they say. That's the Unabomber, for people that know. I've had a fascination with
him?
Yeah.
And I think he's also, I believe, and you're gonna hate this, but I also believe he might be a Taurus.
Oh my gosh, you know that?
Yeah,
That's
because
so
there's
funny.
I've looked at serial killers by zodiac.
Okay, see, I would never look at that, but that's funny.
Yeah,
But
but I
yeah,
have.
he's always. I'd like joke with my husband, like I'm a fangirl for Ted Kaczynski. Like, I don't know. I think he had some valid points to make. I'm not saying you should go mail bombs,
Right.
but I think he had some interesting ideas.
Yeah.
And the guy that he basically was inspired by, they also says an INTJ. So that just like cracked me up because I kind of make some lighthearted jokes about being a Ted Kaczynski stan.
Yeah. And see, I don't have like any real, terrible people under mine.
No, I think so. When you thought you were INFP,
Right.
there was none.
Right.
But INFJ has a lot of bad guys.
Who do I have as a bad guy?
Can we look it up now?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, they're a bad because it's that J,
The judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some, but for some, INFPs.
Yeah, INFP, I felt like we're all just very decent people.
All right, let's see.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Oh, no, you have all the bad ones.
Do I?
Yeah.
Oh, my
all right,
Lord.
You have Hitler.
Who I think was also a Taurus.
INFJ Hitler. All right. And Osama bin Laden. They know enough about him?
That's very odd.
Trotsky.
It's terrible.
Yeah, there's some bad guys in here. And dictator of Zimbabwe.
Yeah. And see, I cannot imagine, though. And that is the thing.
They're probably strong J's. Especially because, like I said, you go to INFP and there's none, so.
Yeah, because I cannot imagine thinking about, like, my personality type and imagining a dictator.
Yeah. And they give quotes that these people have said that, like, make them, why they type them, I guess, is INFJ.
Right.
Let's, like, read some of Hitler's quotes. This is getting out of control. We can cut this, but, maybe people like this. All right, so some things Hitler has said. Quote, I hate to disappoint people. Do you agree?
See what I'm saying? That's really annoying because, yes, that's true.
This is something that's, like, not relevant.
But I still feel as if...
this is someone talking about him. He was respectful, even diffident, and very careful to adhere to the forms of address. The secret to Hitler's power is that his unconscious has exceptional access to his conscious. Hitler responds to the vibration of the human heart with the delicacy of a seismograph. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, again, I can see the specifics, right? Like the very detailed specifics of a person in that way, like being very specific in your relationship with someone.
Yeah.
But once you get to the whole cruel dictator, we're gonna lose Pats at that point. We're long gone at that point.
It's funny.
But yeah, INFP, I'm like pretty clean.
Oh, they're really clean. Yeah. So,
well,
I don't know. Sorry, I'm just reading the quotes.
I'll
from
say
my bad
that
guys.
from at this point, now we're going to take the test for.
Yeah. Wait, here's one of my bad guys. Here's a quote from him. If you imagine a thing happening in your head, you will make it happen, that is, if your willpower is strong enough. So evil.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about these. I don't know about these bad people.
If you buy into Myers Briggs, though, they have to be one of the types,
Correct. So. Yeah. But I mean, I feel like we're leaving off on the cliff here because to me, I feel as if it is still a very mirrored perception, right?
Yeah.
So I want to follow up on this and do each other's tests.
Okay.
And then come back and see where we go from here.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, this one, we had a good time.
Yeah, I felt like I was revisiting,
A lot. Yeah.
Maybe I should go call some people up and ask them.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think
Okay.
my personality type is? That's where we should go from here. Yeah, give them the list and then say, what would you pick for me? Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So
it's like, all right, so we're doing follow-up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're on YouTube and you know your type,
drop it in the comments.
Drop it in the comments.
Yeah, and we'll do follow-up on this one. All right. Have fun, guys.
Till next time.
All right, bye.